task 1 and possibly all the effects of transposing a couple of numbers as dyslexics might do with letters. Now, please understand right away, I'm not poking light at the condition of dyslexia. It's not a laughing matter, and even if my title here is meant to watch, and that's not dyslexia, that's just me being silly. But we can see, I didn't show the graph here, but here's the report that we're going to be looking at today, and it's a first-time contribution to the IELTS Tips and Tricks page on Facebook. So I'll try to be nice. I usually have a hard time being nice, so captions preference. Now, what do you need to do in task 1? What are the essentials? Okay, well, following the instructions are the essentials, because that will tell you how to fulfill the requirements of the task. When we look at the band descriptors for task 1, you'll see that phrase being used throughout all the different levels of requirements of the task. Okay, well, what are these requirements of the task? Here I've highlighted them. These instructions that you see on the screen are the same in every task 1 academic, not general. And I want to point to the 4 verbs in this sentence, the action words, because these tell you what you need to do. First, you must summarize the information. And I've gone over this a bunch of times, but I'll do it again. Summarize means to express the most important information about something in as few words as possible. That's why, for example, you don't talk about anything that's not on the graph. In that instance, you are adding stuff to the report, and that's the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting what? The main features, not insignificant features, not all the features. You're not really selecting anything if you're reporting everything, are you? Yeah, selecting and reporting the main features. And reporting is also in color here. Reporting is usually not a problem for most people in that it's just describing what you see. However, it has to be accurate. And here's one that trips people up. Make comparisons where relevant. Okay, it's not enough to just describe the graph. You have to make comparisons. Do you do that? Question mark. Okay, so here's the graph in question. Again, this is how he posted it without the instructions part. Okay, what do we got here? Let's analyze it, shall we? When we analyze something like this, we want to first get a feel for what it is that we're looking at. Okay, households. What's a household? It's not a house. Okay, a household is a group of people, a family. What percentage of all the households were renting versus all the households that were not. Okay, and in Britain, 22% were in owned accommodations, less than a quarter, while more than 3/4 were tenants, were renting. Okay, that's what we see when in 1918. What's the next time period? 1939. What's the difference there in time? That's 21 years. Weird. And then here, what do you got here? You got 14 years between 39 and 53, and then 8 years between 61. Yeah, that's and then 10 years beyond that. Why is that? Why are these numbers off? No reason particularly. We could speculate, but we wouldn't be doing that in our report. Is it worth noticing? Yes, it might come into play as you describe things later on. Okay, and then what happens after that? Well, then go down, flatten out, back up a little bit. And of course, the these two numbers, 32%, line up with 68%, and that you add them together, you get 100%. This is very remarkable. This is a main feature right here in the middle. There was a point in the early 70s where they were equal. Okay, and here's what you wrote. The presented chart illustrates the percentage of owned and rented residents. Well, residence is not used correctly here. In two countries named England and Wales. Yeah, we don't need to say named. And even two countries, you can just say in England and Wales. That'd be fine. From 1981 to 2011. Here's your first big mistake in the dyslexia thing I mentioned. 1981. Really? Is that what it says? Look again. 1918. Got to be accurate. According to the given chart, you'll now my colors. Green is grammar. Orange and red are task response. Blue is coherence and cohesion. And green, as I mentioned, is grammar. The chart and there's green there because you're missing a comma. Okay, according to the given chart, the presented chart illustrates. We don't need to say that because it's according to the given chart. The proportion of resident accommodation is increasing throughout the given time. Meanwhile, the numeric not used correctly there, for the remaining category out of 2 depicts the opposite. Numerics don't depict anything. And we need to forget about graphs and bars and numerics. Now we're talking about reality. We're talking about people and where they live. That's what it represents. We're not talking about the change in the drawing. We're talking about the change in the world. Okay, and here's your next big mistake. Rented accommodations in this graph is represented in the lighter color, and this is going down. It is decreasing. The proportion of rented accommodation is increasing. You got it completely wrong. That's going to be like 5.0. I mean, it's not a typo. Fatal misunderstanding of what it shows. Oh wait, did I want to comment more on that? That's pretty much it. Where is your overview? The bars show. Again, we want to stop talking about the bars show and it's illustrated by this and that. That's only used in the opening paragraph. We don't talk about the bars once we've got past it. A large chunk, that's rather informal, of people rented their residences. Okay, good. About 77%. Now this is an awkward phrasing of the sentence. A large chunk, I would say that more than 3/4, a large chunk, 77% of people rented their residences in the year 1981. But again, it's not 1981, it's 1918. And then it goes up from there. While between 1953 and 1991, it decreased drastically. No? I'm sorry, it did actually decrease. Yeah, rented. It goes down. From 68 to 32%. I'd say that probably more like 31, but anyway, to around just over 30%. Which remained the same. What is which? Till 2001. But, don't start a sentence with but. It slightly rose about 6% between 2001 to 2011, which made it up to. I mean, that's not good vocabulary choice. Okay. Which remained the same. Which made it up. Can we go back to here? No which is in there. It's a which. Okay. Next to. Oh, I didn't mark all of it. All right. Well, too bad. Once again, we are looking at the bars, but we're not looking at bars. Oh, yeah. it can be witnessed. Once again, it's overuse of the passive. This construction should only be used in the overview, if that. It's numeric. Once again, incorrect use of numeric. Increased during period. Yes, well, that increased too. Both rented and owned increased. You should have caught that. Between period 2000. Wait. Oh, except between 2001 and 2011. Well, where it decreased a bit from the previous. This is not summarizing. This is a very long description of some very simple trend. Between 1981 and 1991, again, you meant to say 1918, right? I don't know. The bars showed leveled up from 23% to 68%, which remained almost stagnant. So actually what you're doing here, you're just repeating what you just said in the first half of that paragraph. Okay? Yeah, if we look at, everything goes up except for a little bit where it doesn't. Here, everything goes up except for a little bit where it doesn't. Overall, overall is one word and separated by a comma. It is interesting. No opinions. Interesting is not something you should be talking about. To analyze and say that between 1991 and 2001, the numbers of both residences remained idle. What does that mean, remained idle? However, both categories rise and drop. Are you comparing them now? Both categories experienced rise and drop from start to end. That means nothing. I see. This could be a comparison here. 1991 and 2001. Well, they didn't remain idle. You meant to say they remained the same. Clearly, on the bars for 2001, in 2001, it's closer to 2001 than 1991 is to its 30% bar. So I put it at 31 and 32%. It's not remaining stagnant. Another whole paragraph based upon a flawed observation. What do you got to do to improve this? Well, thoroughly analyze the graphic. If you have a problem mixing up numbers, going back and forth, think about, is it logical for 1953 to follow 1981? Not if it's ascending. Forget what you've learned. I can see a lot of these sentences that you're using are canned sentences that another IELTS guru might have said, you must say this. It can be observed. No, God. No, forget that. Remember the 4 verbs and the instructions. Okay? They will be on the page to guide you. Summarize, select, report, and make comparisons. What happened? Yeah. Don't try to show off with fancy words. Okay, follow the instructions. So yeah, there we are. I think that's it. I'm done. Have a good day. You've now been reviewed. Can you improve by the 10th? Yes. Watch all my videos. How do I stop this? Jane, stop this crazy thing.